is September the 9th, 2025. It's 5:15 p.m. and the work session of the Bel Air Board of Town Commissioners is now in session. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Rutledge.
Here.
Commissioner Chismar.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
And Commissioner Chance.
Here.
All right. First is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this evening's agenda for the work session of September 9th, 2025 here at the Town Hall.
Thank you, Commissioner Chance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion of this evening's agenda, or are we pretty good for today?
No.
Good? All right. In that case, I'm going to call the roll for the vote. Commissioner Rutledge,
Aye.
Commissioner Chismar,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Chance,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. All right, first we have a presentation from Stephanie Zahn, the Town of Bel Air Grants Review. Good to see you, Stephanie. I know you do a lot of work and a fabulous job on the grants that we get and do so much with. It's good to have you here to give us an overview. So go ahead.
The Town of Bel Air has a long and successful history of completing grant projects. Our grants focus on community development, neighborhood revitalization, and public safety. As commissioners, you know how much time and effort goes into creating the budget. Grant funding helps supplement the existing budget by providing opportunities for projects we otherwise would not be able to afford. Many people assume that grant projects are easy to complete, and once you have the money, there are no other obligations. This is far from the truth. Grants are very competitive, and a lot of time and effort goes into writing the application and creating the budget. And if we are awarded funding, the fund doesn't stop there. There's progress reports, there's quarterly progress reports, financial reports, and reimbursement reports. Although it is very time-consuming and sometimes stressful, the reward is worth the effort. Today I'm going to talk to you about the grant projects that the town is currently working on. First up, we have economic development. We recently were awarded funding through the Maryland State Arts Council Arts and Entertainment Operating Support Grant in the amount of $18,000. This grant will sponsor and promote arts-related events and initiatives. It'll pay for musicians for Winter Wonderland, funding for Armory events, and workshops at the Harford Artist Gallery. It'll also pay for advertisements for the public art tour and district events. Next up is planning department grants. The first grant we have is the U.S. Department of Safe Streets and Roads for All in the amount of $140,000. The town partnered with the City of Aberdeen and the City of Havre de Grace to develop a safety action plan to prevent roadway fatalities and injuries. The goal of this project is to have 0 fatalities and severe injuries by 2030. The town provided a $25,000 match, and a $10,000 in-kind match was split between the municipalities. This project is complete and we are waiting for reimbursement. The next grant is the Community Parks and Playgrounds grant through the Department of Natural Resources. This grant was for the Multiple Park Improvement Project in the amount of $100,757. This grant paid for improvements to Plumtree Park, including the resurfacing of the basketball court, paving of the parking lot, a new swing set, tables, chairs, and a bench. The town is also very excited that the grant paid for 4 new AEDs, 1 for Homestead Park, Shamrock Park, and 2 for Rockfield. A new swing set was also installed at Homestead Park, and the town provided a $50,000 match. This project is also complete, and we are waiting for reimbursement. We recently applied for funding for the Alisand Park project in the amount of $125,000. If awarded, this grant will pay for the installation of multi-generational outdoor fitness equipment, poured-in-place rubber surfacing, a trail leading to Lester Way, and an AED. The first grant application we submitted was through the Drescher Foundation in the amount of $100,000. This application was submitted on July 10th, and Kevin and I met with the Drescher board members on July 24th. The Drescher board members will review our application at their next board meeting on September 10th. The second application we submitted was through the Greater Bel Air Community Foundation in the amount of $25,000. This application was submitted on August 27th. And the town will partner with the Bel Air Downtown Alliance to provide the remaining $25,000 in funding. Next up is police department grants. Several of our grants are through the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, and this is where the police department receives the majority of their grant funding. The first grant is the State Aid Police Protection Grant in the amount of $264,209. This is based on an annual formula budget, and we apply for this grant every year. The next grant is the Body Armor for Local Law Enforcement in the amount of $2,157. This funding will be used to purchase 5 bulletproof vests and a 50% match, and there's a 50% match requirement. The next grant is the Community Grant Program Fund in the amount of $24,037. Funding will support the Explorers Post program, including promotional items, field trips, scholarships, events, and training. The next grant is the Police Recruitment and Retention Grant in the amount of $10,530. Funding will be used to recruit and retain qualified police officers, and each officer will receive a $330 bonus this year. The next grant is the Police Accountability, Community, and Transparency Grant in the amount of $52,739. Funding will be used to purchase 26 body-worn cameras that will be used as backup cameras for when the officer is off duty or when their other camera is charging. Funding will also be used to hire a part-time audit clerk to audit body camera footage. The last grant is through the Office of Justice Programs for the Bulletproof Vest Partnership in the amount of $2,139. This grant will also allow us to purchase an additional 5 bulletproof vests, and there's a 50% match requirement. Next up is Public Works. We recently were awarded funding through the Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $53,894. This is a pass-through grant from the Harford County Department of Housing and Community Development, and it comes down from the federal government. It'll pay for the street paving of Cortlandt Street between Main Street and Hickory Ave. This is an annual formula grant to benefit low and moderate income persons. If you look on the map, there's 2 highlighted areas. Those are the only 2 areas in town that have a low to moderate income percentage, and they're the only 2 areas where we can complete this particular project. Okay, next up is Public Works pending grants. We recently submitted an application through the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development for the Bond Street Improvement Project in the amount of $341,000. If awarded, this will pay for the demolition of brick pavers, the installation of stamped concrete, replacement of damaged sections of sidewalk with new concrete. It'll also pay for the installation of new flower beds and replanting of existing flower beds. The town will provide a $50,000 match. This application was submitted on July 1st, and award announcements will take place this fall or winter. Last but not least is the Administration Department. The town is very excited to host their second Citizens Academy. In order to expand and grow the program, the town submitted an application through the Maryland 250 Commission in the amount of $1,000. Yeah, that would be a lot of money. If awarded, this grant will provide funding to promote the Citizens Municipal Academy and provide refreshments during classes, cake for the graduation ceremony, a giveaway item, and a framed graduation certificate. This application was submitted on August 5th, and we should hear back next month if we are awarded. This chart shows the active and pending grant totals by department. I am currently managing approximately $738,000 in grant projects. And we also have $467,000 in pending grant applications. And we hope to receive all the funding for our projects. As you can see, the directors make sure I stay very busy, and I'm very passionate about my job. As I stated before, the town has a long and successful history of completing grant projects from even before I started working here. However, I'm very excited to say that in less than 5 years, I've brought in over $3.2 million in grant funding. This has been and will continue to be a collaborative effort with all of the directors, the town administrator, and several other town employees. I also work in partnership with the Bel Air Downtown Alliance. We all work very hard to make Bel Air a great place to live. Does anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to say you've been very successful in making the town of Bel Air a great place to live, and $3.2 million is very impressive
Thank
in
you.
5 years. That is that is a large amount of money for a town of our size with a budget of our size. So we appreciate your efforts. And I know that supervising grants with various deadlines to submit, various deadlines to spend, 50% this year, 50% that year,
Yeah.
all by a particular date, and all the reporting. And of course, it can only be used for grant-approved projects, is a lot of balls to keep in the air, but you've been
Yeah.
doing a great job. Thank you.
It's a lot of work, but we all work together as a team, and we get it all done.
May I also say a few words? I can't even imagine the amount of time and energy you put into each one of these grants. I know how technical they are, and I so appreciate your hard work. Being part of the Department of Economic Development, you have a great team, but you are the one who has to write it, you have to supervise them, and that's intense, and I
Yeah.
know it is. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Yeah, you're
Greatly
welcome.
appreciated.
Thank you.
You know, Stephanie, when we consider what the taxpayers give to you versus what you give back to the taxpayers, you may be the single greatest investment in the town of Bel Air. So there's no doubt that you provide an invaluable service to allowing to stay us in the black and keep continuing to not only not raise taxes, but provide more and more services and amenities for our residents year after year. And without that $3.2 million, I know Director Moody could testify to the fact we would not be able to continue doing that on such a fiscally conservative budget as we have been. So we really appreciate the hard work that you've done and the success that you found. And we pray that it'll be another $3.2 million over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stephanie, thank you for all your work.
Oh, thank
We
you.
appreciate that. I mean, you're talking about bringing in over 600,000 a year
Yeah.
over those 5 years, which is great. And I'm sure it was a little slower in the beginning, and now it's ramping up. 'Cause
Yeah.
last year you were over 700,000, like $750,000
Yeah.
and all. So phenomenal. Just a great job, you and your staff and the rest of the town and the rest of the staff are doing to bring this money in. And I'm excited that you've already got 467,000 already somewhat penciled in. It's
I
like,
know.
okay, and we're just beginning the fiscal year, so.
Yeah. We're also researching grant opportunities, I forgot to mention it, for Public Works Department for a solar canopy. So that'll be at least another $200,000 if we move forward with that
Right.
project.
Great, keep going.
Yeah, we're still researching and
Right.
getting more information.
Yes, Stephanie, I want to congratulate you on how you can master so many different subject matters when you substantively write the grants.
Yeah.
There's really a wide variety here that's
Yeah.
covered, so kudos to you. Thank you very much. Great job.
Yeah, I've learned a lot in the last 5 years about different things I never thought I would learn,
Yeah.
but I like it.
Madam Chair, if I could just add, Stephanie is part of our Economic Development Department staff. She does a wonderful job on grants, as is evidenced by what she's provided to us this evening. She is awfully busy and keeps track of a lot of things for all of the directors for the town, and we greatly appreciate what she does. In addition to that, she also does so much else for the Economic Development Department. So while her title is Grants Coordinator, she wears a lot of hats. So we count on her in economic development to be the face of the department as well. And she does a wonderful job with business visits and so many things that she does for our department. So we keep her busy with grants, but she does a lot of other things too. So thank you, Stephanie, for your presentation this evening and for everything you do for the town. You're greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, we have the Maryland American Water Company presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While Laura and Jeff are getting ready, I just want to introduce Laura Runkle. She's the president of Maryland American. Many of us have met her in the last several months. Jeff, we know, is the operations manager for Maryland American as well, and we've all worked extensively with Jeff over the years. Laura and I have been in contact ever since she notified me several weeks ago of the proposed rate hikes that Maryland American will be seeking, and she wanted to make us aware as well. After talking with the commissioners and talking with her, I've submitted all the questions that the commissioners have submitted to me to her in preparation for today. So I will turn the floor over to her and let her take it from here.
Welcome, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioners. As Eddie said, my name is Laura Runkle. I am the president of Maryland American Water. I also have the privilege of serving as a president of Virginia American Water. I met many of you when I was doing my initial tour of our facilities and our locations when I started in this role back in January. So I have not quite hit the 9-month mark, but I have been with American Water for 15 years. I have worked in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Iowa before taking this role here. I'm very happy to be here because I am a Maryland girl myself. I'm from Baltimore County, the town of Catonsville, if you're familiar with Catonsville. And this truly is an honor to be able to come back and work in basically my hometown backyard. I'll let my colleague Jeff Barton introduce himself. He is the face of Maryland American Water right here in Bel Air, and he has been with us for many, many years leading our operations here in Maryland. We do have a few things that we want to go over with the commissioners this evening. Just a state of the business update. We want to tell you a little bit about some of the capital investments that we've been making over recent years. We want to give you an update on some emerging contaminants, some things we're doing with our lead service line program. And then, of course, we will also talk about the recent rate case that we have filed with the Maryland Public Service Commission. So I will jump right into that. And just very quickly say, this chart that you see on the screen here talks about the capital investments. Yes? Oh, sure. I know.
Showing you our back.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep. Good. Sure. Yep. I think I have the best view because I've got this large screen to look at and you all have nothing. Yeah, okay, is that better? Okay. And certainly if you want me to call any of these numbers out, please let me know. But really, we wanted to provide you this summary just to show you the investments that we've been making back into our system here in Bel Air over the past several years. And when we get into the rate case filing, I'll go over those details. But the reason we have the years 2019 through the first few months of 2025 is because that is the period of time since our last rates went into effect. So this is the amount of capital that we have been investing in the system without any recovery on it since that time. And that's why we cover these years. In case you're wondering, it does look a little bit odd that we have a significant amount of investment so far already in 2025. That really is just a timing issue. There are some major upgrades that we've made at the Winters Run water treatment plant, and the way that we put it into the documents that the Public Service Commission looks at and is that we get recovery of investments that we make once they go into service. So even though some of these investments we've been under construction since 2021, so 2021 through 2025, they show up in 2025 because that's the actual in-service date. So I didn't want that, it does look a little out of line, but it's because we've had some major upgrades that have gone into service recently. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff to talk about a few of those very specific upgrades.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good to see everyone again. Appreciate you having us out here to present some of these capital projects that have been in the works since 2019. So my name is Jeff Barton, been here 33 years now, so seems like a lifetime. Again, made some relationships and seen a lot of folks come and go internally with our company as well as the town of Bel Air. But it's always a pleasure to see everyone and be here with the water company to provide a safe, reliable drinking water that we try to take very seriously here in the town of Bel Air and throughout the American Water Company. So going through these projects, the picture that you see here is the UV installation. It's in service in April of 2025. The UV was brought about because of the LT2 requirements, the enhanced surface water treatment rule. There was additional testing that was done in 2015, 2016. Out of that additional testing, they put facilities into a bin 1, bin 2, bin 3, or bin 4. Based on the number of parasites, Giardia specifically, and Cryptosporidium. So once you were put into this bin, you had to, if you were a 2, 3, or 4, you had to come up with another alternate plan to do additional disinfection. So that's where the UV container came from. When you look at some of that cost in the $7,000 and the in-service project, I think the UV container, the price is up there, was $6,300 is the total on everything there. That UV container will provide that protection from crypto which, you know, can come from upstream, farm field runoff, sewer overflows, things of that nature. So, any questions around that one? I'll keep going and save the questions for the end if you'd like, or if you have a specific, can try to answer it. Okay.
I mean, if you don't mind, to ask questions as you go.
Yeah.
That's all right?
I'm fine, yep.
Okay.
What we will try to do, you know, whatever's best for you. Yeah, if you have a question, just let me know. Okay. The second one on there is the office lab and filter building. The office, the flooring, the cabinets, the chemicals, there's some exhaust hoods that we needed when they do their reagent testing. Some of those chemicals should be vented to the outside. I think some of you may have done a tour and you've seen that lab, so you know the space we're working in. But we were trying to revamp that and revamp the bathroom as part of a large plan upgrade, you know, several projects in motion down there. So with that lab, it's tight. We had some new computers. We now have 2 daytime operators. It became a little wonky in there with, you know, 2 guys, so we had to kind of rearrange some things to, you know, make some space in that room. So that's what that project was about. The on-site hypo generation, what we're trying to do there, we need to get rid of chlorine gas. Chlorine gas, as many of you know, is just not safe. It's not safe for our employees. It's not safe for the public. Even though we do not use ton cylinders, rail cars are a long thing of the past, but the 150 cylinders do present a hazard that American Water said probably 5 years ago, we have a 5-year plan to get rid of. So the hypo, we decided to go with the on-site generation, which basically means we're going to generate our own hypochlorite. So we took our shop space, kind of revamping that shop, and it'll be on-site hypo generation is what we're going to do. It gets rid of the chlorine gas. So that's that project. Hydraulic flushing system is the last one that I have on this slide. The hydraulic flushing system, we when the impoundment went in, we redid our intakes. It has an airburst system. I think, again, many of you have toured the plant. You saw that airburst. But the airburst really only scours a little bit of that screen and stuff off the top. But what we're finding is debris. There's some piers out there that stop that, but the sand builds up around them. So we're going to try to put a system in that will blast water from the impoundment. So it'll be raw water, no chlorinated water or anything like that going into the stream. And that'll help get that sand away from the intake. They're half barrels that sit about 3-foot slab of concrete. And if you ever go down there, you know, we can have a storm and it can wash that in. And it makes it difficult to get that raw water into those new half barrels, which have a finer mesh screen than what we had previously. So, you know, it's a little modification of what we did before. So that's what we're looking to do there. Okay.
So the UV treatment was really the cost driver in that 7 million? That
UV
was about-
treatment is a big one, yes.
That was
The
like
UV and the
6 point
hypo.
something.
The hypo is a significant project as well.
Okay.
But yes, the UV is a big driver. And that unit is, if you've been down there recently, you'll see it sits by the road, by the 2 clear wells. It's in a self-contained container. A lot of pipe work to get that tied in and get it situated where it had to be to give us that final protection of UV disinfection. High service pump pit repairs. So this pit is actually in our high service pump room, which is that room where the laboratory, if you walk out the lab door, for those of you that have seen it, this pit, it's a 1955 building, right? So this pit has become to the point where the pipe that you see on the bottom of that top picture, that's what we call our effluent going off. That's out of the pump pushing out of the plant. So, you know, we don't want any damage in there. We don't want further damage. So what we're trying to do is really seal that up good, get that water out of there. We're going to end up adding a sump pump to it. It's going to get painted and waterproofed. There's a lot going on in that little picture that you maybe don't see in the picture. But dewatering, cleaning the concrete surfaces, filling the cracks with injectable grout, coating the concrete surfaces with waterproofing, improvement. It improves the overall reliability of not only that pit, but if we were to have a leak in there, there's electrical and other things within that. So that's what that project is about. Moving on to the water main replacements. As you know, we've had a lot, so, you know, we only selected a few here. But the South Main 12-inch water main replacement, that was a vintage 1890s water main. Many of you know we had the cap, Eddie's, you know, long tenure with the fire department. We had one of them painted black there. It was a very low flow fire hydrant. If you can imagine a fire hydrant connected to a 4-inch water main, 6-inch laterals minimum. So that project, it was on a state highway. So, you know, state highway adds a layer of complexity, but we do have that 12-inch that's extended now out to Idlewild. In my mind, that was a really good project to get done. And not to mention just the disruption on that 1890s water main, going back, you know, 6, 7, 8 years, multiple water main breaks on that one. So you have good fire protection, and it was a good project. Robinson and Roland Avenue, I'm going to kind of tie those together. Robinson and Roland Avenue, Robinson was vintage 1940, Roland 1949. These were not on our pipe planning to be done, but we started talking with the town of Bel Air. They were doing some paving projects. We do a 6-year plan now. They weren't even in the 6-year plan at that time, but when we looked at them, started talking about it, we thought it would be best, rather than put them in year 7, 8, can we pull them ahead? So we pulled those projects ahead, so we didn't go back 7, 8, 9 years from now and rip out that paving, which it's obvious, 1940s, 1950s. It's due. With that, we replace all the services. We put all new fire hydrants in. So Robinson had one fire hydrant, which was put in new. Roland Avenue, the same thing, and every service out there was replaced. The project probably spent a little more along the way in some valves as we got into some of the valves as we were shutting them down. The age of the valves, you know, the next one in, if you're doing a cluster of 3, so we ended up knocking out a couple more valves there, replacing those as well. Otherwise, you know, come through and pave, and you guys picked up the paving on Roland. So the last thing we wanted to see was this winter back out there hitting another valve that was 5 feet away. So we went ahead and got those couple out of the way. Wright Street, very small main. You can look at it and say it's not a lot of, you know, not a huge customer impact there, but you have the senior housing and you have the school. So again, it wasn't a super old vintage water main when we replaced that, but we had several breaks there. Every time we had a break, it was coordination with the school and traffic and pickup time, and it became very difficult to work within a, you know, 10 o'clock to a 2 o'clock afternoon, so we didn't, you know, impact the schools and the senior housing with the buses and stuff. So I'm personally glad to get Wright Street done. You know, spent a little bit of time out there, too many times, working on some water main breaks. Thomas and Archer Street. Thomas and Archer Street, Town of Bel Air again had a project going on here, and through that we had a couple valves that ruptured. We spent one night, we worked on several valves in that intersection, and a couple intersections beyond. Every valve we went to was just compromised. Again, it's an older area town. There hasn't been a lot of work done there. So ultimately we did a couple valve inserts, and then we had another main break. We were tight against your paving schedule. We understood your paving schedule, and we finally said, you know what, let's do another pull ahead. If we can pull some money forward, I want to get this T and valve that was butted up against Thomas Street into Archer Street. So we took the opportunity to get that out of there. And then on the heels of that, we had some paving that went along with that. So we ended up restoring, just from the water main breaks, there was some damage to the road bed, and it just wasn't compacting right. So we, you know, took it on and had Fletcher come in and redo the road. So, you know, there's no settling and sinking of that road bed. And I'm certainly able to attempt to take any questions that you may have, or turn it back over to Laura.
Excuse-
And if any-
So,
Go-
yeah, so Jeff, these these improvements you put in here, they were in the 2019 increase, rate increase that was done in 2019. None of that rate increase was looking ahead to bank money for these capital improvements and repairs? I mean,
Yeah, we have line items for that. So we have line items for capital. It's really A through S.
Right.
We have capital money for service replacements. We have capital money for vehicles. I think that's outlined, all the lines that we have. And line C is mains unscheduled, which is our main breaks, right? So we have an allotment of money for that year over year over year. So with that, that's part of the recovery, right? And we expect that to continue. That'll continue through 2030. And you may have read about the DISCA, and Laura will talk more about that. So, but yeah, we've always had capital money for mains service replacements. We like to do that proactively, but it doesn't always happen that way, right? The unscheduled stuff is always going to be there.
Right, I understand, and you budget some of that, and it's hard to budget exactly for that. It's gonna be up or down, type of things. But I'm just curious as to, because in the testimony, we were talking about trying to recoup $22.6 million from for repairs and investments. Let's put it, investments since 2019. And I'm like, well, why was the 2019 rate increase so deficient that it wasn't covering these things?
Yeah, I'll let Laura continue, but
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. No, Commissioner Chismar, that's a great question. And one thing that's different between being a state-regulated utility versus a municipal utility is that we don't have the opportunity to bank revenues for future projects in the way that you might think of it, in the way that a municipality might. We have to spend the money first and then ask the Public Service Commission to recover it at a later time. The Maryland Public Service Commission, unlike some other states, is entirely historical. Historical test year. We have to spend the money first, show them what we've spent, and then they will set new rates to allow us to recover those investments later. They don't allow us to over-recover. They don't allow us to recover more dollars for some future projects. It truly is a true-up for when new rates are set. So when the new rates were set in 2019, they cover the new amount of investments that were put into our rate base, so our total number of assets, our total value of assets that we have in our system, divided by the customers and the rates to support that. But it is not future-looking. It's not forward-looking. Everything is retroactive with the way regulated utilities work in Maryland. It's not. It's typical for regulated utilities, but it's not how most businesses are run.
Okay, so then the funding for the impoundment bond, that was supposedly included in the 19 increase, and that was, so then you were back paying for the investment you already put in the impoundment, or were you, because the impoundment came online, or when did we start construction on the impoundment?
I think 16?
16? So the 19 was not looking forward to pay for the impoundment, but it was back paying the impoundment. Is that what that rate increase was in 19?
In a way, yes. And the way that utility accounting works and the way that commissions the commissions set rates is that it looks at the value of that asset depreciated over the lifespan of that asset. So that entire $15 million for the impoundment project was put into what is called rate base, which adds to the value of every single pipe, valve, hydrant, meter, tank that is part of our service treatment plant. And then every year of the expected lifespan of that reservoir, so let's just on average call it 100 years, 1/100th of that $15 million is charged as depreciation expense. And so the rates that we're paying right now, that your constituents and our customers are paying right now, are paying, for purposes of demonstration, 1/100th of that $15 million every year until that asset is depreciated, and then it's taken off the books.
Okay. But with this rate increase, we're looking at those two programs, which were the ATCR and which was the advanced treatment and compliance rider, which is to put charges now for money that federal, if I understand it correctly, that federal regulations will now impose new standards for you. And then there's the DSIC, which is the Distribution System Infrastructure Charge, which is really for, I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, which is for improvements to our mains and water lines and facilities. So are those, I got the impression that we're paying now so we can pay for those in the future, which is different from what we were doing in the past, which was you were investing and then we were paying it back.
Yes, so those two different mechanisms that you're mentioning, this actually ties in really nicely with this next topic that I'm going to talk about related to the advanced treatment rider. These are two new mechanisms that we're requesting the Public Service Commission to consider. That doesn't mean they're going to, that doesn't mean they're going to authorize them, but one of the things that these types of surcharge mechanisms of pre-approval of investment projects from the commission would do it would minimize this rate shock that our customers are faced with right now after years of investment and having to recoup that in one large lump sum. It would allow us to petition the commission every 6 months with what the projects are going to be in that 6 month. If they authorize it, then that would be recovered through a small, 50-cent surcharge on customers' bills to eliminate that rate shock and, frankly, the expense of putting on rate cases every number of years. To actually do all of the litigation and pay for all of the expert witnesses and attorneys, it costs several $100,000 just to file a rate case. And so that's another reason why we have waited a number of years. We've made a major investment. Our customers experienced a very large increase after the impoundment, and so we've been trying to wait some time. The advanced treatment mechanism that we're seeking we're asking that it would address things with new regulatory compliance requirements. Number one, primarily, is the EPA last year came out with a new MCL, a maximum contaminant level for PFAS. It's a family of chemicals. They're man-made. They're nicknamed forever chemicals because they don't degrade in the environment. They're omnipresent. And we have done monitoring of our water sources in all of our service territories and all of our sources to determine where we will need treatment installed in order to meet the new PFAS requirements that the EPA set last year. The compliance deadline is 2029, so we are planning for it now. American Water as a whole has used its size and buying power to enter into a national agreement with Calgon Carbon to be able to get their equipment and the regeneration of carbon at the best price that we possibly can, because if you think about it, there are drinking water utilities all across the nation that are all having to meet this 2029 compliance deadline. So it's certainly a scramble to get this technology and this equipment available and installed. This is something that I'm just letting you all know about as a forward-looking project that we are looking at over the next few years, because we know that this new requirement is coming down the pike, and we have identified that we will need treatment installed at Winters Run. We are planning to have it installed by 2028 so that we can do the proper testing and monitoring and make sure that it's working as intended. We have actually very good news back already from the Maryland Water Infrastructure Financing Administration. So that's the state revolving funds that come from the state. We put in an application for, technically it is a forgivable loan. In practicality, it works like a grant. After 10 years, the loan is forgiven and goes away. So we are certainly exploring every avenue to mitigate the impacts of this type of massive investment that's needed in treatment to comply with these new regulations. We have heard back from the state that they have put our project forward for recommended funding to the tune of around $8 million. We will not get the final word on that until next year, but we are very hopeful that we might be able to have the state help pitch in and fund a good portion of this project.
Regarding the advanced repair mechanism, you mentioned saving money on rate cases. You expect that it will eliminate the need to file rate cases or just slow their frequency? And if it's the latter, how much do you expect that it'll slow their frequency?
Yep, that's an excellent question, Commissioner. It would never eliminate that because the eligibility for these two types of mechanisms, one would just be addressing new regulations and things that would be needed to invest to meet those new regulations. The other one, the distribution system improvement charge, is to address regular distribution system needs, typically water mains, mains and valves. Usually it is the underground pipes, valves, sometimes meters that are needed as just part of our regular recurring projects. Neither one of those are currently in the tariffs that we have right now. We don't know if the Public Service Commission will authorize one or both. The National Association of Regulatory Commissioners, which is kind of the national body of utility commissioners, does recommend these types of mechanisms as best practices because they do allow the company to recover more timely the investments that they're making, and they also minimize rate shock. But they will never ultimately eliminate the need to file rate cases because they're still only addressing certain investments. They don't address operating and maintenance expenses and a host of other types of expenses, labor and other things that that wouldn't capture. So there would ultimately still be a need. And I will certainly, on that point, just while I'm mentioning it, in this case, we are very, very proud that the operations and maintenance expenses, so things like labor, chemicals, fuel, we have kept significantly below the rate of inflation over the past decade, and particularly over the past 6 years. So I think the rate of inflation for those 6 years was around 2.6%, and we've been able to keep our operating expenses down to around 1.8%. So it really shows that we are making very good faith efforts to keep our operating expenses low, knowing that our customers ultimately pay for those. I do want to mention one other thing related to regulatory compliance, and this is just an update. We actually have a great success story here in Bel Air. To date, we have not uncovered any lead or galvanized lines requiring replacement here within the town, but I did want to give you an update on our inventory project. So as part of the latest EPA rules related to lead and copper, we had to come up with an inventory of the materials of all service lines. So the line that goes from the water main to the customer's home, both the side that's owned by the company and the side that's owned by the customer, to determine what those are made out of. We have this map available on our website. It was published back in October of last year in compliance with the EPA regulations. It's something that we're still working on. If I were able to zoom in on it, which I'm not, you'd be able to see every little circle that's visible. It represents a service line. And one half of it represents the company side, the other half represents the customer side, and they're color-coded to show if it's blue, it means we've confirmed it's not made of lead. If it's white, it means it's still unknown and we are still trying to determine that. But from what you'll see on the screen there, that's just a screenshot that we pulled a couple days ago. There is no known lead, which it would show up in black if it were lead. And any customer can go on this map at any time on our website. You can type in your address, it'll zoom right into your home, and you'll be able to see what we have as far as your records. That's why we're continuing to send out mailers and emails and encourage people to self-report. If yours shows up still as unknown, we would love for you to self-report if you have a way to do that, and otherwise we have our teams and we have a contractor lined up to continue doing all of this work to try to identify all of the customer service line material over the coming years to make sure that we can one day certify that there is no lead in the town of Bel Air. So with that, I know we have talked a little bit about our rate request, and I believe Commissioner Chismar, as you mentioned, the main driver is the approximately $22 million that we've invested since the last time we filed for a rate request. That equates to, we're asking for an annual revenue increase of about $3 million in total, and about 1.8 of that $3 million is directly attributed to capital investments. These are only proposed rates. The commission sets our rates, so they will make the final call and the determination. We do not anticipate that new rates would go into effect anytime sooner than March of 2026. And in addition to those two infrastructure investment mechanisms that we're proposing to help mitigate rate shock and get more timely recovery of investments, we are also, we took a little bit of a creative approach to proposing a two-tiered rate design in this case, which we've never done before. But when we looked at the total impact, where our total increase request is 47.5%, we were trying to see how could we possibly identify some relief for the most vulnerable customers that might have a hard time affording that. And so with a lot of different combinations of rate designs that our team put together, what we came up with was a two-tiered rate design where customers using under 2,000 gallons would pay a lesser amount, and then anything over 2,000 gallons would be at a higher rate, because our data shows that customers typically that use less water often are typically the same customers that have less income. And it's a way to try to get at that relief for lower income households. And I'm showing, I know that, sorry, the print is so small. I am showing an example of this up on the screen, but if the commission were to accept this proposal, it would increase the average residential bill for up to 2,000 gallons of usage per month by about $6 a month. And then if we're on kind of the higher end of the usage block, 4,000 gallons a month, those customers would see an increase of approximately $29. I also have kind of what shows in between what the impact would be if you use 3,000 gallons, which is closer to what our average residential customer usage is. Increasing rate blocks like what we're proposing are used in other states, particularly for water, not as much for gas and electric, but it is something that a lot of state water utilities will use, particularly to encourage conservation, especially in areas where water availability is a challenge. We think in this case it might be a good thing for the commission to consider related to lower income customers.
I'd be interested in seeing where your data is for less water means less money. Because my husband and I, 2 people in a house, probably going to use less water than a married couple with 4 children. And we have way more disposable income, I would bet, than somebody who's raising 4 children, paying their mortgage, paying for soccer and the rest of it. I'm opposed to a tiered rate system. My understanding is it's mostly used for encouraging conservation, and certainly encouraging conservation is a good thing, but I think your pocketbook encourages conservation. I had a toilet running that I discovered somewhat late after I got the bill, and it encouraged conservation and a repair, because I noticed a really big, my bill like doubled. I think people should pay for what they use, like they do with BG&E, like they do when you go to the gas pump, like you do with anything that you use. You pay for what you use. It's a natural consequence that you would be encouraged to use less, particularly if it was pinching your pocketbook. And the data that shows using less water means you have less income, I think is just, I have a hard time believing that.
Yep, and I certainly can follow up with some information. We have a group within our company that looks at affordability down to census tract level, and they do a really good job putting together what we're looking at primarily is bill to income ratios. And so right now I think our bills here in Bel Air, the bill to income ratio is around 0.5%, and with the increase that we have proposed, even if it were to go into effect in full, it would keep it below 1% of household income, and the goal that we try to keep ourselves to based on EPA recommendations is it not exceeding 2% of household income. So we still have information that shows that with the demographics that we serve, we still think our rates will still be affordable, but I certainly can provide some additional information to you about that. And again, it's just what we're proposing. No idea what the commission is going to say about this.
Right. I am vehemently opposed to a tiered rate system. You should pay for what you use, and I just don't think, I think it's like statistics, as a group, this might be true, but it's not going to apply to individual households because you have no idea what your customer's income is. You have no idea what my household income is or the household incomes of anybody in my neighborhood because you don't have that data. I know you can, make some census tract guesstimates, but it's really not a fine enough tool to apply this to everyone. And I'm concerned about the, 2 parents, 4 kids. They use a lot of water because you're always doing, laundry and baths and all that sort of stuff. And they're going to use 4,000 gallons to get the higher rate when they probably have less disposable income than, the single person who's living in an apartment and it's just them. They're going to use way less.
Completely understand, absolutely.
If I could jump in and follow up on that point. So let me just understand a little bit about the corporate culture there that drives these decisions. Is Maryland American Water traded on the stock exchange?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so is there any holdings in Maryland American Water by any related entities?
All holdings are in our parent company, American Water. There's not actually any
Okay,
stock
so
in
Maryland American Water itself, I can't buy stock in that
Correct.
because the parent company owns it.
Correct.
Okay, so this, the tiered system seems to reflect a corporate culture. They may want to engage in social engineering or social policy with regard to economics of different people. And I'm just questioning whether or not really that should be the role of a utility rather than the role of a General Assembly or the United States Congress if they want to engage in redistribution kind of theory. Can you speak to that at all?
That is absolutely the role of the Public Service Commission. That is, they are appointed positions by the governor, and we certainly, we engage with them. We talk to their staff. We talk to the Consumer Advocate Division, which is called the Office of People's Counsel, and we certainly are listening to what we believe their policy directives might be, but ultimately it is up to them.
I understand they have that ultimate decision, but they wouldn't even be considering it if you didn't request it. You're proposing the 2-tiered as part of your rate case, correct?
We are, but
Okay.
I don't know that I could say that they wouldn't consider it otherwise. They truly have the ability to set rates in whatever way they see fit.
My general impression is with the Public Service Commission, and I've handled a utility case there before them in the past years ago, and how often do they? Well, first of all, is this the first time that the water company, Maryland American Water, will introduce a tiered system?
In Maryland, yes.
Okay, but is the parent company encouraging the approach of a tiered system in any other subsidiaries?
There are 3 other subsidiaries that have tiered approaches, but I wouldn't say it's encouraged by the parent company. It's that state's decision based on the needs of that community and that regulatory body. I can't speak for the Public Service Commission, but this was led by our state's regulatory team looking at various options and putting together a proposal that we thought was a bit creative, but a way to possibly address some of the issues that we anticipated would be raised in the case anyway.
So other subsidiaries of your parent, have they proposed to other regulatory bodies a tiered billing system for water?
Yes, there are 3 that I know of that have tiered systems, tiered rates. I don't know about how many have been
Do
proposed,
you
but
know
I
how
know 3 are
long
in effect.
they've had those tiered rates? How many has been,
I do not.
5 or 10 or 20 years, or is this something relatively new, like over the past decade?
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm just curious because it just seems like it's a economic social engineering, tool which many large corporations in America have readily trended to engage in, and I was wondering whether that was just happening across the board.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
Has there been any discussion in any of the corporate meetings that you've attended about whether or not proposing the tiered system was good corporate policy or good social policy?
No, this was really a state decision as we were putting together
So
this case.
do you know who came up with the idea for Maryland American Water to come into a two-tiered system? Who in your company came up with that idea?
We have a regulatory team that puts together our rate designs, and so we had a whole team of people that were looking at it. But ultimately, I made the call on whether or not we wanted to include it.
But was it suggested to you, or did you suggest it to the team?
I asked our team to look at various options.
And did you ask them to look at tiering things based upon affordability?
I didn't specifically ask about tiering. I asked for all options. We looked at a number of different rate designs. We have some states where there's a certain amount of allocation of water for the fixed cost. So the way that our rates in Maryland right now work is that there is a $10 fixed charge. So $10 is what you paid for no water, for 0 gallons at all, but just for your meter to be read each month, for you to receive your bill each month, and for the infrastructure to be in the ground to allow you to have service. And so we looked at possibly moving to, we looked at all different options, including whether we wanted to propose an allocation amount. Some states allocate 1,500 gallons or 2,000 gallons within a certain fixed charge before there's a usage charge that kicks in. So we looked at a lot of different options in this.
Do your rates that distinguish between residential use and commercial use?
Yes, there are different rate classes for residential and commercial.
And so in the commercial use, say for restaurants in Bel Air, will there be a tiered system for them? Or is the tiered system only for residential use?
I will have to check, actually. I believe it is just residential, but I actually don't want to say that for sure. I'll have to check that and get back to you.
Yeah, because it would strike me, if you're trying to drive an incentive for people to use water more efficiently, that might make more sense in a commercial setting where someone could actually call the shots on how they structure their water consumption, say in a washing, a laundromat or a high volume
I do-
dishwashers, et cetera, versus. But the tiered proposal is residential consumer concept only.
I
on your
will
proposal.
have to get back to you on that. I believe so, but I don't want to say 100%.
Okay.
In your Exhibit 5, which shows the rates, by commercial, by public, by fire, whatever, it just shows a single capacity charge and usage charge, whereas on the residential, it shows the two-tier, the multi-tier.
All right.
And I-
On your
Thank you.
Exhibit 5.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to mention just one more thing as it relates to affordability. We continue to remind our customers about our Help to Others customer assistance program. We do have a program that provides grants of up to $500 per year for customers who have hardships. It's considered an emergency grant. There is an income eligibility requirement. We are actually working with our program administrator, the Dollar Energy Fund, to make the application process more streamlined. Right now, customers have to work with a community-based organization, so a nonprofit nearby, to apply for service. We actually are in the process this month of changing that, so it will be an online self-application portal through Dollar Energy Fund for customers to apply for those grants when they need them.
I have just one follow-up there. Just a question about coming to this decision, because I think what the mayor has said and what Commissioner Rutledge has said has been incredibly prescient. But really just, I want to drill down to this one specific thing. Was it considered in the cost-benefit analysis of proposing this two-tiered system that regardless of what the general data says, and we can have that conversation, but if you were to take two independently wealthy empty nesters who spend half their year in Florida and turn the water off for the rest of the half of the year, that they would be disproportionately benefited by this two-tiered system, but that the two-parent, four-kid household would be disproportionately harmed by this two-tier system. And I understand, it may be that you decided, yes, it's still worth going forward with this, but I just want to know if that particular tension was considered when introducing this proposal.
I think that level of detail on the kind of the policy discussion around this is what will happen as the case gets litigated through the Public Service Commission and with the ratepayer advocate. I think those are the conversations and the discussions and the debates to come, as opposed to discussions that happened prior to the filing. Those are all things that are discussed within the course of this case that takes about a year.
On that point, you have filed this case procedurally, correct?
Yes, we filed August 1st.
And do you have the option to amend your filing voluntarily?
There are opportunities, yes, to amend filings. There are also, right now we're in the period that's called discovery. So our other parties in the case are serving data requests, so they're asking
Right.
questions and we're providing responses.
But even though you're in the data request process back and forth on those quick turnaround answers, this question, that, and they're like 72 hours, or some of them,
They're
are
pretty
even
quick.
shorter than that, right? I mean, the response to the data rebuttals are very, very, the lawyers are, really running fast and hard. And so is your engineering team and everybody else providing the data and all your experts. But that, even though you're in that discovery period, if the company decided, hey, through the discovery process, maybe the light bulb went on, they started to think about something like what just Commissioner Taylor just mentioned about, people who have, I always think about the three-generation family, because I'm an estates and trust attorney, and I commonly deal with people who are in the sandwich generation. They're taking care of the elderly folks at home. They got the little kids in the house. Maybe there's been a death in the family, and their grandparents are raising the child's children, et cetera. And those families, I mean, they're not the ones that are out of here, like Commissioner Taylor said, and they're not the snowbirds, and they're not the people who can just like turn off the water and go for a 3-week vacation somewhere. They're the ones that are trapped. They got to use this. They've got a lot of laundry going on with the elderly parent, with the demands of elder care, the increased laundry that goes with dealing with people in, extreme, situations, hospice care, et cetera. Seems to me those are the high demands between the younger kids, the kids in sports and activities, working, a lot, and then you got the elderly parents. Just in case the company would say, hey, maybe we're punishing those people. Maybe we should amend this now. Maybe investors in the parent company would be interested in thinking about whether that makes sense. If something happened like that, you could still voluntarily amend that out, couldn't you?
I know we make amendments to the case if we found errors. I think this type of discussion that's more of a policy discussion will happen throughout the course of the case with the other parties involved, especially the Office of People's Counsel, because they represent the residential ratepayers. They are the advocate for the residential ratepayers, and I think that's certainly the avenue that I would certainly, with this the stance and the opinion that you have, I absolutely think that's certainly the right avenue and the right party to be involved in that side of the position.
But if they raise that, you don't have to take it to the final decision. You could modify it as a settlement, as a compromise.
All parties would be involved in that. It wouldn't be us
Yeah, okay.
in a vacuum. Mhm.
But you could be you could suggest it to the others. Your company could suggest, hey, you know what, we're rethinking this.
I think
One
I
aspect.
think all things are on the table in settlement discussions.
Okay, well, thank you.
And I did have another thought on who uses the most water. I know that our Director of Finance, Lisa Moody, had provided me with some sort of guesstimates on where our people fall based on the sewer bills.
And those, not to interrupt you, but that was residential and commercial.
Okay, so I won't use those numbers. But what I was curious about, and I know I asked Eddie to send it to you, and you may or may not have the answer today, is in the usage brackets that you're going to use, how many people or residences get shut-off notices, and how many people actually, get shut off? Because to me, those are the people who are struggling, and I'm curious if that's the 2,000 and under, 2,000 and up, 4,000 and up. You know, where are the people that are actually struggling to pay their water bills on usage?
That is data that I believe that we can get, but we were not able to get it before today.
Okay, I'd be very curious about that, and I'm surprised that you didn't look at that first, because that's actual, real-life data based on this particular community, not a census tract sort of estimate, guesstimate, which we use too. I mean, you know, you have to use something, and you may not have the granular data, but you actually have that.
Yes, and that's information that we will absolutely follow up with you with.
Thank you.
The last thing, and I'm pleased to let me know if we are at time or not, I did just want to make sure, because this is happening with your neighbors coming up, we did want to just make sure it was on your radar that American Water announced back in May that it had come to an agreement with another water company called Nexus to acquire its water and wastewater systems in 8 different states, Maryland being one of them. So as part of that, Maryland American Water has filed a petition with the Public Service Commission to acquire these systems, which include the Greenridge Vista and Lakeside Vista systems here in Harford County, as well as some that are down near our Severn system in Anne Arundel County, and then it will give us water and wastewater systems out in western Maryland and Allegheny County. We really just wanted to mention this just so that you were aware of it. It is not anything at all that's included in this rate case. This is something for the future. We would not close on it until about a year from now, probably around August of 2026, but because these customers are right down the road, we just thought you might want to know about it. So we just thought we would kind of close by mentioning this. And I believe that
I
is my
appreciate that,
final
because I'd actually
slide.
gotten a call about one of those
Okay.
communities, and
Yeah.
I had to inform them that they were not part of the town of Bel
Yes.
Air, but,
Madam Chair, may I? Laura,
Absolutely.
just a question on Greenridge. Has Maryland American assumed operation of Greenridge, or is that in the process?
We have not. We will not be able to assume operation of it or really assist in any way until that acquisition has closed. It's gotten approval and it has been closed. So it will be another year or so before we're involved in any way.
And that's the same with Lakeside Vista too, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Ms. Runkle, I had a few more questions to follow up on. So, if the rate increase goes into effect, where on my bill will it show that, is it just going to be in the capacity charge and usage charge that will be, that increase is what's paying back the 22.7 million to recover that 22.7 million? Is that where it will show up on my bill?
Yes,
So
it would just be new base rates. The actual dollar amount would
Okay.
change, but the line items would be the same.
Right. And then how many years will it take to repay that 22, to recover that 22.7 million?
It is not one, there's not one answer to that because the investments are in different types of assets. So the amount of time that we depreciate a tank is different than a water line and is different than a pump and it's different than a impoundment. So the range is going to be between 50 years and 100 years for different, there's a whole depreciation schedule and depreciation study that was submitted as part of this case as well to show how we depreciate down those assets over their life cycle.
So this 50% increase, close to a 50% increase, it will not pay off that $23 million for long decades.
Correct.
Okay. And the other question I had is, so, and this rate increase does not include an ATCR or a DISC charge, is that correct?
The new rates that we're proposing are separate and apart from those two different mechanisms that we're proposing.
Right, so that would increase our bills even further. Because now we're putting aside some money for those capital improvements every year that we need to. So we're kind of paying as we go.
If they were approved.
If they were approved,
Yes, it would
right.
be more of a, the commission would look at a 6 months of projects that we are requesting to do, and if they authorized it, they would authorize a certain amount to then be billed as a separate line item that would appear as a surcharge.
So they would look at that every 6 months, the PSC? based on you would,
That's how we're proposing that it would work. Some states, they
Okay.
do it quarterly, some states, they do it yearly, some states, they do it every 6 months. So we're proposing 6 months, but it could certainly be any, if they approved it, it could be any frequency. If you don't mind, I'm just going to take 1 minute to mention, because I should have mentioned this when I was on the topic of PFAS, and particularly related to that project and the emerging contaminants that we're dealing with. Our company has been involved in litigation against PFAS manufacturers. There were about 7,000 water utilities that were involved in that. It all became consolidated into something called multi-district litigation, and the first settlements have now been reached in those cases. It will still be ongoing for quite a long time. But as part of that, now that we actually do have kind of the first dollar amounts that all of the water utilities involved in this litigation are going to start seeing, we just filed on Thursday a revised tariff with a letter explaining how we propose to the Maryland Public Service Commission how we think those dollars should flow back to customers. We think it should be done very timely. We don't think it should wait till a general rate case, for all the reasons we've talked about, how rate cases take a lot of time and money. And so what we have proposed is that we expect that these settlement dollars will be trickling in over the next decade. They might come a couple times a year. We have 2 right now that we can go ahead and offer back to customers if we get approval of the Public Service Commission to do it. What we are proposing to do is take this first payment of $124,000 allocated for Maryland American Water customers and put it back on customers' bills as a one-time surcredit. So if we divide that by the number of customers that we have in Maryland, it would be approximately $24. And that would just be happening as the money comes in. We would be petitioning the Public Service Commission to say, here's the surcredit that we would like to give back to customers. And then as soon as we can get that on the next bill, which we would hope would be the next month, the customers would see that and would have an explanation that it's the result of a litigation settlement. So that is kind of the latest breaking news in that case, and not sure how quickly this commission will rule on it, but we hope that they will rule on it in the next few months so that we can, completely aside and apart from our rate case, go ahead and start putting those surcredits, the opposite of a surcharge, the credits back on customers' bills.
and that was one of my questions. I knew you were in litigation and all, but with, you know, with 3M and DuPont, and they're the 2 biggies, and I think there was, I can't remember.
Yeah,
the third
there was
company.
5, including those 2.
Yeah, the biggies, but, so that would go to be just surcharged back to the customer as opposed to paying for the remediation technologies to get rid of the PFAS in the water. Because you're going through those projects now, you're saying it might be anywhere from 5, I don't know, in somebody's testimony, it's like 5 to 18 million, because you didn't know what technology and the cost and all that.
Yes, we're proposing on it going back as a credit on customers' bills because we think that's the simplest and most expeditious way to give those dollars back to the customers. If we were to try to, hold them in a reserve fund and then put them toward capital projects that are going to take 4 to 5 years to build, we don't think that's the simplest and most direct way to do it. So this is what we're proposing, and we'll see what they say.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
When you went to the Maryland, not Maryland Service Commission, but when you went for loans, did you include both the Bynum Well and Winters Run? I did read something where the Bynum Well was removed for discussion or something like that.
We did submit 2 separate grant applications, one for PFAS treatment at Winters Run, one for PFAS treatment at the Bynum Well. What we have been told, based on what they're recommending to come forward, is that they actually were recommending that they approve the Bynum Well project and not the Winters Run project. But we understood that they had been looking at some slightly old data. They didn't have the latest information on the PFAS monitoring we've been doing, and also they had some, I don't want to call it extra money that became available, but when we had a conversation with them about it after their initial recommendations had come out, we are now led to believe that we will it will be recommended to receive the $5 million that originally was going to be approved for Bynum Well, plus an additional around $3 million. So that's where I got that, saying we expect to hopefully get about $8 million. And they have agreed that we could put it toward treatment at Winter's Run and wouldn't have to have it go to Bynum, which of course would be our priority.
Sure,
It
because-
would be great to be able to do both, but certainly the number one priority is to install carbon treatment at Winter's Run.
Thank you. And do you know if the legislative judge has been appointed yet by the commission for
I
this
have-
case?
I have not heard that the administrative law judge has been selected, but there was a pre-conference hearing yesterday that the procedural schedule was set. So I think
Okay.
the procedural schedule has been set, but I do not know if the judge has been
Thank you.
appointed. Mm.
All right, any further questions? Well, thank you so much for coming and spending so much time with us on your presentation. We really appreciate the information. And Jeff, always good to see you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, next on our list is the Town Administrator's Report. Eddie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Give me just a second to catch up on my notes here. Had all my Maryland American papers out. Okay. So last work session, I have a fairly robust report. This one is a little less, just a few odds and ends to make the commissioners aware in no particular random order. So Raising Cane's, the grand opening is going to be September the 16th. It is quite the endeavor. And I'm sure Angela can add to that. And I know I've had some conversations with you individually. The elephants plan to march down Main Street around 7 a.m. So when the train brings into town. But no, seriously, it is a fairly extensive and large grand opening that will take place on the 16th between 8 a.m. and 5:30. Dignitary presentations and remarks will be around 9 a.m. We have met with them, and actually, all jokes aside, they have been extremely cooperative to work with. Lieutenant Farr and Chief Moore have met with their staff. They have put a plan together.
That's what I was looking to hear.
Yeah. They have put a plan together. They presented to us some ideas. We went back to them with some edits and corrections. So Lieutenant Farr, rather than take up time here, Lieutenant Farr and the Chief do have a detailed report if you want to hear that from them. But they do have a plan in play to address what we anticipate will be a large crowd at a very busy intersection. Also,
At a very busy time of day.
a very busy time of day. Also, the commissioners should have in their inbox an invitation sent to them through Angela's office for you to attend the soft opening if you choose. It is the Monday before the grand opening, which happens to be a town meeting night, so we could pick up takeout and, if
We could meet there.
yeah, we could meet there if you're so inclined. So anyway, lots going on with that, but again, very good people to work with. We do have a plan in place with them. And Chief, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, sir. I think you covered it all.
Cool, thank you. I had in my notes to talk about a reset of the Broadway speed hump discussion, but we have that under miscellaneous, so we can talk about that later. Staff and I did have a planning meeting with Winter Wonderlands Committee. Donna Dickey is the new chair of that committee. The dates for the Winter Wonderlands this year will be the 29th of November, December the 6th, and December the 13th. Donna has applied for the SHA permit to close Main Street in conjunction with Chief Moore. That's going as planned. The date of the what I will call Winter Fest, if you will, because we'll have the Christmas parade, will be on December the 6th and the 7th. So that will be a full weekend in town of Main Street being closed on Saturday and Sunday for the various events. But anyway, we have a good plan in play. Donna took over the planning of a little late in the season, but she's rallied pretty quickly, and we're doing well with that. So things are going very well along those lines. Homestead Wakefield Elementary School rededication is October the 4th. For those of you who are attending, I checked with their public relations staff today. There will be no speakers at this event that I'm aware of. I'm sure there'll be speakers, but I'm not sure how far the extension of the invitation will be. However, they would appreciate a proclamation or some sort of formal recognition, so I have David working on that now for the commissioners as well. We did get a reach out from some people about the trees on George Street. We talked about this at staff, but the new street trees that we planted on George Street are currently stressed by the heat and the temperatures. People are concerned because it really did add to that street, but Steve's staff is watching closely to make sure that those trees are well taken care of. I can't say it was unexpected, but it hit us a little harder than we thought. So, Steve, anything more on that?
No, we've just been currently watering them on a regular basis, and it just shows a little stress, and I think they'll be fine next spring when they all pop back.
Great, thank you. Kevin's staff has mailed out as you know, the outdoor tents come to an end on September the 30th for Independent Brewing and for, thank you, Z-Vault. Couldn't think of Z-Vault. Anyway, there's the letters. If they haven't gone out, they will be going out near the end of the month to alert those people that that is coming to an end.
Aren't they both removed already?
They have been, but they were ahead of schedule, right, Kevin?
Yeah, yeah.
The tents
we
are
sent out
already.
the letters, yeah, the tents are removed, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
Yeah.
Yeah,
moving
we're talking
parts
about
to it.
we're talking about using seating, outdoor seating. We're not talking about tents.
it's both.
Yes.
Okay.
It's both outdoor seating and tents. But the tents are gone, so that it's really relative to basically the use of a temporary use permit, and that's not going to extend anymore past September 30th.
Right.
I was told by my staff today that the chairs and tables in front of Z-Vault have been removed, but I need to go by there and take a look, see whether that's happened or not.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was generalizing. I just
Yeah,
assumed we all knew. My bad. Okay. So those letters, if they haven't gone out, will be going out by the end of the month. In their continuing endeavors for pedestrian safety, last work session I talked about an extensive meeting walkthrough with State Highways. Probably a week or so prior to that, Chief Moore had also reached out to State Highways on a system called the Hawk system, which is currently used in a number of cities across the country. It was offered, I think, Mr. Chismore, it was one of the things you might have offered to us as well. You had sent us an email. So we did follow up, we did talk, but the nice thing is that sort of there was a double hit between the chief and SHA, and then the chief, myself, and Kevin and SHA. Over a 2-week period, they had their fill of us talking about pedestrian safety. The upside of that is that we received an email, the chief and I received an email today from one of their engineers. They don't disagree, or they don't agree with the Hawk system. And as I mentioned to you in the last work session, everything is data-driven. And good, bad, or indifferent, they have a reason for every reason why they can't approve what we would like them to approve. That said, however, they said, and I'm quoting from an email, in an effort to promote pedestrian safety, they are recommending the installation of crossing ahead pavement markings in both Maryland 924 lanes approaching the Independent Brewery crossing. The markings are designed to draw attention to the pedestrian crossing ahead and encourage caution as drivers progress safely through the location. A work order has been prepared. For the modifications, they anticipate the work to be completed by winter of 2025. So, is it the full step? No. Is it a half step in the right direction? Yes. Which is essentially what we were asking for, something to raise awareness. So I wasn't hoping to win the entire lottery, but I was hoping to get some progress. And based on the chief's, I appreciate what the chief did for me on that behalf, but between the two of us, I think, and Kevin and Steve Klein, we've made some progress, at least in a positive, safe direction. So,
And
Chief,
pretty quickly. I mean, winter 2025, that's almost here.
Chief, am I missing anything?
No, sir. Although, I mean, we're still going to work on the speed devices, the speedometer, automated speed signs
Yeah.
on Main Street and Bond Street. So that's still something in the process too. So.
Still a ways to go, but
Yeah.
we're a step in the right direction as opposed to going backwards or going forwards.
So the state is okay with Hawk system, but said not
No.
at that location.
No, the state does, I don't think
They
the
don't
state.
like the Hawk
I don't think
system.
they like the
Okay.
Hawk system. They said it's confusing and a whole bunch
Okay.
of other
Just-
things.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I didn't understand when you said that they didn't want it.
Yeah,
I
they didn't think the Hawk system would work for this intersection.
Or any intersection.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they're in favor of it really at any intersection.
That's what I understand, yeah.
So, and then lastly, Madam Chair, I know you and I and Mr. Chismore talked a couple of weeks ago about cannabis. On our agenda priorities, they've all remained the same, but what Kevin and I discussed earlier last week was to move cannabis up from later in the season to earlier in the season. So we have an issue with setbacks, but rather than push it out a little bit further to give us time to work other priorities, we've actually moved it up into October for a work session in October to come to you all for some decisions and recommendations that we'll need. So that will get that back in the fall as opposed to late winter, early spring. So With that, ma'am, I'll take any questions. Other than that, that's my report.
Any questions for Eddie?
Thank you.
Eddie got off easy as opposed to our last guest. He was here for a while. All right, on our tentative agenda for our next town meeting, which will be September 15th at 7 PM right here in Town Hall, first we're going to have the presentation of the promotion of Brett Spurl to Officer First Class. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. We're excited to honor one of our officers, Officer First Class Brett Spurl, on his promotion. Brett Spurl, you'll see in the biography, and I think you've already gotten it, maybe? But if you haven't, we'll make sure you have
Kim
the
did
biography. Okay.
absolutely already provide that to me.
Excellent officer.
She will
past
also bring it on
explorer.
Monday because that's what she always does.
She keeps me in line too,
Right.
so very lucky to have Kim. Explorer since 14 years of age, former Marine, represents the town in exceptional fashion, hard worker, mature. So we're looking forward to honoring him, his family, friends, co-workers, town leadership. We'll also be there celebrating his accomplishment, and we'll have the usual small ceremony afterwards in the police community room. And I think that'll about cover it.
And he was part of the Police Explorer program starting at 14. So
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
you're recruiting early.
got a great officer there. So that's all I have.
All right, then we will have the public hearing on ordinance 846-25, amending Articles 7, 14, and Attachment 1 of the Development Regulations in Chapter 165 of the Town of Bel Air Code to establish a use category and performance standards for short-term rentals, and to revise the definitions of short-term rental and accessory dwelling unit. And then we will move on to unfinished business, which will be voting on that on that ordinance. And I think we've all discussed this quite a bit, and have come to a pretty firm agreement that everybody can live with the current language as drafted. So we'll be seeing that next week. Any questions or comments on that one? Okey-doke. And then we will have new business, which will be Resolution 1258-25, the opioid litigation settlement, authorization with 7 opioid manufacturers, Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Sun, Viatris, and Zydus, which we will discuss further in closed session. And then we have, under new business as well, the international full-size dump truck purchase. Mr. Klein, this has to be you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First on, we would like to get approval to purchase a 2026 Freightliner dump truck. It's the large size, and this will be a chassis-only purchase. It's a Sourcewell piggyback contract through Freightliner Western Star of Elkton. The price just for the chassis is $127,827. Any questions on that?
Does it come with like a driver and, lots of cup holders, I guess?
Actually, no, it does not.
No. I'm always shocked at the cost of these big pieces of equipment, but I know it's on a competitive bid, and boy, they're expensive.
Yeah, it's through the Sourcewell contract. The upfitting, which is referencing like getting the plows, all the lights, chains for snow emergency, they come on automatically if the truck starts sliding, the salt bed and all the hydraulics and everything like that. You ready?
I'm sitting down, and I think I'm glad.
Okay, so this is just for that part, and this is an estimate. This isn't exactly what it's going to be, because we have to figure out how we're going to handle that under some new procurement stuff. Is $127,670. So it's almost exactly the same as the chassis of the truck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, it is a substantial thing. It's a whole, it also includes the bed of the truck, the dump truck, and all the hydraulics that make it go up and down and everything like that. So this, if everything would go with this project, we would be $9,500 under budget, which is a good thing.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So that would be a good thing, but we'll figure out how to upfit it. We just want to get these trucks ordered as soon as possible, because they are taking a long time, and we want to get them built.
Right. That was going to be my question, like, what's the lead time?
Yeah,
If you put in an order today, how long does it take
the
for the
thing
truck
is,
to
we
show
just
up?
want to get them on the line. We want to
Right.
order them and get them on the construction line and get them going, so then we can get them as soon as possible, and then we'll worry about the upfitting. And then, I'm sorry.
Mr. Klein, is this a dual axle? Tandem axle?
Yes, it's
The
a
big
single
one,
axle
yeah.
dump truck, but it's two wheels in the back. Yeah.
No.
No, it's a single axle.
Single axle?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the ones, okay.
Yeah. It's exactly like the other four we're replacing one of our 4 big dump trucks that we use for the big plows for snow removal. Exactly what you saw last year in the Christmas parade, that vehicle right there.
It was pretty.
You wait for this year. We got something up our sleeve.
I cannot wait. I really enjoyed last year's. I love the dump truck, so.
Somebody's going for that award.
He's
My
determined.
staff really likes getting involved in that, so.
Well, I love that. I enjoy it myself. All right, any other questions on the full-size dump truck purchase? All right, now we'll move on to the Ford F-550 small dump truck purchase.
Yes. So this is one of the smaller trucks, one of the smaller dump trucks. It's an F-550. It's a 2026 Ford F-550 diesel, also a single axle dump. But again, it's the smaller version. We can get around in Jake's Townhouse Street, so we can take care of his snow removal needs, so he can make it to the meetings.
I appreciate it greatly.
That's
You're
very
welcome.
important.
And this is also a piggyback off of Baltimore County, and we'll be purchasing it from Apple Ford. And the price for the chassis is $77,457.90. So we would like to get approval to purchase that vehicle as well.
All right, any questions for Steve on the little dump truck?
And what's the cost to outfit it the rest of the way? That's,
On that, baby?
yeah, another 77K?
How did you know? 77,457. No, I'm sorry. That's the price of the thing. I'm sorry.
It's just,
No, actually, it's only 65,450.
bargain.
And that's from Moxley's Equipment up on Route 1. They've always serviced all our vehicles and built out our vehicles. We would love to have them do it, but we'll probably have to put that out to a bid or something like that. So,
Great. Okay, thanks.
yep.
All right, thank you. Anything else for Steve? Okay. Commissioner Liaison reports. I have nothing to report except that the tree committee will be meeting tomorrow, so I'll have a report at our next meeting.
Appearance and Beautification Committee met last night. We do have a prospective member that we can talk about in closed session, but looks like we may be getting up to that full force of 9 people, which is great. And believe it or not, we are getting closer and closer to award season. So when we get to see all the lovely, beautiful homes and businesses across the town of Bel Air, ABC is hard at work looking at those things. And as much as many people in the audience might cringe when I say this, we're looking at Christmas. So, we've got a lot of things around the corner, and ABC is hard at work off there a couple months in the summer that most of our town committees customarily take off, the ones that don't have statutory obligations to fulfill. But they are back and strong as ever, talking about some great things that'll make the holiday season fantastic in Bel Air through the fall and into Christmas.
One more item, if I can, sir. I'd like to say also that they will be procuring or beginning the procurement process of buying the flowers for next summer in October. So we want to try to get that order in late October, early November.
All right.
Madam Chair, the Historic Preservation Commission, what's happening there, it's of interest to the commission, is there's work coming on some proposed legislation to modify the tax credit system to add a second tier, from going from a 10% credit to a 25% credit in certain only particular circumstances of really bringing things back to true historic character, because you can do a lot of things that the Historic Preservation Commission will approve, but a good example would be if the siding, you're allowed to put back the siding that was on it when it went into the program, okay? But what if the historic period siding was a different material, back to some of the original, wood look? To incentivize that, this legislation would give a larger tax credit for that kind of really bringing things to the period of its construction. So there was a draft legislation was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission. Comments were made to it. Directors Small and Laura, they're working on revising that legislation for those comments. And so the way it's working out on our calendar is September 25th will be the next HPC meeting, and they will be really putting, you know, final touches on the proposed legislation. That would enable us, if things all fall into place and the stars align, to be able to discuss that at our work session, which will be the 30th of September.
Great.
And if it receives, you know, a favorable feel, you know, from the commission, maybe a few tweaks here or there, we could, I would love it if we could then be looking at actually having a piece of legislation that could be, you know, received at the October 6th town hall meeting, with the idea that, you know, to be able to, you know, pass this then at the next town hall meeting, have the public hearing on it.
Sounds like it will work out as long as they.
Yeah, which would be on the
work on this.
20th. So that would be, you know, maybe, you know, optimistic and a little aggressive, but things are moving along really well. And Kevin, thank you very much. Did a super job of that draft legislation. They really were able to sink their teeth into it and have a lot of
That's great.
input. And it has, you know, a tremendous amount of support. There are no negative members of the commission. Nobody's saying, oh, I think this is a really bad idea. All of them are really, you know, have bought into it and like the idea. There's been discussion about, you know, do 3 tiers, and that got set aside, just a simple, to be able to, you know, lay things out differently. So stay tuned on the standards that'll be proposed.
I'm
Okay.
looking forward to it.
See, I like a 2-tier system when we're rewarding people. I don't like it when
Same.
we're punishing people. So
There you
kudos to HBC.
Yes, and as long as they have it done, if they're finished on the 25th, I think it can go on the 30th and be ready to move forward, so that's great.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's my report.
All right.
Jen, there's already a 2-tier system now. There are 5% and a 10%, 5% on the original, or 10% on the original, 5% on
There's a 10% on
additions.
any work that's done to preserve or restore structures. It's a 5% if you're adding to that
the,
structure.
adding to the
Yeah,
structure, right?
You're doing an addition.
Right. In addition.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
that's all. So there's
Okay, yeah.
already
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, so what they're looking at is, okay, we've got the building, there's no addition being proposed, that the people are, you know, they're doing something, you know, it's siding, windows, railings, porch railings, you know, anything in the view shed kind of a thing. Yeah. So so that's only one particular part of our legislation. The 5% is in a separate
Yeah, okay.
part of the
Yep.
code.
One question that I do have about, you know, maybe some supporting data to go along with this. Will we be able to project how much revenue we would lose each year if we were to adopt this?
I've talked with Lisa, I've got the last 10 years,
Okay.
but remember, that's not with 25%.
Right.
But it's what we've experienced over the last 10 years.
And
based
I
on
certainly, you know, we figure not everybody who's currently availing themselves of the HBC tax credit will go above and beyond. But we also don't necessarily know how many people it might incentivize to come out and start the whole process to begin with. You know, that can be difficult to project, but I'm just curious about seeing those numbers. I think it's a good idea either way, and I suspect that the answer will be rather negligible. I could be proven wrong. But I suspect that it won't be blowing a huge hole in our budget. I would just like to see those numbers.
Just an update on the planning commission met last week, and the topic on there was the extension of the phase 2 of the mall for the 249 apartments. With all the problems they've been getting with sewage and a couple other issues, that their building permit will run out in the January of 26, so they asked for an extension, so that'll take them to January of 27. Is that correct? Yeah. And they think that they should be breaking ground for that. Oh, jeez. They said something about that, and I can't remember. Do you remember, Kevin?
I think they were talking the second quarter of 26.
Second quarter, yeah, of 26.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. anything from,
Tomorrow, Rockfield Board will meet, and I'm anxious to hear how well things are going for them right now since they're up and running again. And if they're, Kevin, you may have some news on that line that I'm not aware of at this point, but anxious to hear how they're doing. Go ahead.
You're referring to Rockfield?
Excuse me, Rockfield.
No, I don't have any other
Everything,
information.
okay. All right. That's all I have right now.
thank you. All right, next is the staffing update, and we don't have Mike here, so Eddie, you're going to do that?
I will apologize, I was not prepared for that tonight.
That's okay, we'll skip that, and when Mike's back, we'll get double,
I
exactly.
can tell you that we have offered a position to one laborer for DPW.
Great.
Beyond that, there's really no other staffing that I'm aware of, but then the search continues for a procurement officer.
That's a tough one. Is that ad still up?
Wait.
Is that ad still up for the procurement?
I believe so, yes, Lisa.
Yes. And have we had any applicants?
We will be interviewing.
Okay, great.
We're
So
gonna
you
do
do
the best
have-
we can.
All right.
But
Well-
it is still open. I asked Michael to please keep it
Sure,
open through
sure.
the whole interview process until we
Sure.
offered.
Great. Well, it's moving forward, and that's a good thing to hear. All right, next is the calendar. The only thing that, when I looked at the calendar, that I wanted to point out is that our meeting for November the 11th, which is Veterans Day, has been changed to Monday, November the 10th. So that's a little sort of, bless you,
Sorry.
little quirk in the calendar for November the 11th. I remember the 11th was always one of those days that wasn't a Monday holiday, and the kids didn't have it off in school, so it was my day off, and I enjoyed it because I could do whatever I wanted to do. Anybody else have anything for the calendar? All right. Other than that, it looked like everything was on there that I was aware of. All right, miscellaneous. First, we have the discuss the neighborhood traffic management programs, proposed speed hump for the 500 block of East Broadway. I'm certainly okay with moving a voting session to October as they've asked. Seems like a reasonable thing to me, so I'm good with that. I also just looked at a couple of other jurisdictions, and I did notice that, to Jim's point, Howard County and Montgomery County appear to have, and of course, their counties, not, municipalities, but they have legislation and executive orders specifically laying out the terms of, what the group is supposed to look at. We obviously don't have that. Havre de Grace has had what appear to be public meetings with an agenda, like ours for a work session, and taking public comment like we do in town hall sessions. And they met as recently as, I think in June. So I didn't see a reference, I didn't see any, it looks like they take minutes, but there's no minutes available online that I could find in my, brief foray. So I might contact somebody in Havre de Grace just to see if they have some code provisions on the books, or how are they handling those, sort of for the bigger issue of, how are we going to, handle this going forward. I did meet with Ms. Sennett and her husband on Monday morning, and they seem to be, I said we don't, sort of, in summary, in like a Reader's Digest version, there's not a speed problem, so why speed hump? And she said, well, you're telling me there's not a speed problem, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. And I was like, the 85th percentile is 31 miles per hour. It's not terribly far off of the posted speed limit. We use the 85th percentile, 85th and below. And they segued to the real problem is too many cars on the road. And I told them at the time that I have a problem with trying to push traffic to other locations. Or discouraging people from using what are the public roads. And I'm not sure where all the traffic is coming from, because they told me that they spoke to the people down at the other end of Broadway where there always is that sequence of speed humps. And those folks told them that it has really reduced the number of cars coming down the road. So then where are the cars really coming from that are traveling? Are they all coming from town? That doesn't make sense to me. To me, it made sense that people were using Moore's Mill and then, coming down Moore's Mill to come into town, coming down Moore's Mill to Broadway and then coming into town. so if it's already really reduced the traffic up that end, I don't understand where it would be coming from. Like Major's Choice and Oak Ridge, which are the communities, you know, sort of off of Broadway, have cross streets to Broadway, but, I mean, how is that like not traffic that road is supposed to carry? I don't understand, I don't think the concept really at all that roads are just for the people that live there. They're public roads, people drive down my street, it doesn't bother me. I'm sure many of them, I know I have friends that live in the, like, over on the other side of 543, the Hampton Ridge development, the, what else is over there? Hampton Ridge, Tudor Manor, there's a couple of, you know, neighborhoods over there, and they sometimes use Southampton Road, the Circle, Moores Mill, and down Shamrock, and some of them may go down Broadway, but I just don't their point was, there's another route for them, they should take Route 22. Route 22 in the morning and the evening, when you get up to that traffic light near the county office building and the tower lot, is you can sit through 4 or 5 cycles of the light, and I just don't see the wisdom of trying to force traffic more of it onto 22 when really having the other roads carry some of that traffic is a net plus to me for the community. And I understand that they'd like fewer cars going down their street, but if we do that on every street in town, what kind of a road system are we going to have? It's supposed to be sort of an integrated thing where Churchill Road is carrying more cars at probably a higher speed, you know, but Broadway and Shamrock are kind of, they're roads that connect larger roads. They should be carrying, you know, more traffic than, say, a little side street that, you know, really goes nowhere. It's part of the bigger plan, and I just think it's like what we have to put up with as part of a modern society, that everybody's, you know, driving cars. So, anyway, I did meet with them. I'm certainly fine with, you know, having a meeting in October so they can have time to, you know, talk to their neighbors. But I think I think I'm still where I was, which is I don't see there's a speed problem, why a speed hump, and I think even with the volume, I just don't think it's the right thing for that area to put more speed humps in.
Madam Chair, since that email for request was directed to the board, do you want me to handle responding to Mrs. Lowry, or did you want to respond to her?
I will respond to Mrs. Lowry. I just want to make sure everybody is fine with that. I didn't really think anybody
Yeah,
did.
I'm certainly fine with
That's what I
it, yeah.
figured.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Mary, you also? Okay. No interest in, like, you know, cutting them short and not giving them enough time. Now that summer's over, they can talk to their neighbors, and we'll have a hearing. All right. Anything else on that one? All right. Next, we have the Town Development Code 165, Development and Performance Standards, Section 51, discussion of the allocation of town resources regarding parking. Steve, I think this is
Yes, this
You?
was, this concern, you know, about the project across the street, whatever, I just don't feel that we should be subsidizing the housing projects with town resources. And I don't think that it's allocating town resources should be only done from the elected officials' perspective, even though it's a lease, you know, they're asking for, you know, 15-year lease, and giving it to a residential project. I mean, look at all the other apartments that are in town. They're still in business after 50, 75 years. So in essence, we're giving them town property, or subsidizing it for a long time, decades, and all. And only one body, in my opinion, should have that authority, which is this body right here. We control the town resources. It shouldn't be part of any of the other commissions. So I talked it over, I mean, had a meeting with Eddie and Liz and Kevin, and came up with looking at changing some of the wording in here. I mean, I do not, you know, for parking, I think the town parking is really for the businesses and the business community and the people that come in and use those. Because when we allocate them to residential, we're giving them spaces basically 24/7. They can't be reused for anything else. Whereas businesses can share all those spaces, which is, I think, a more efficient use of those spaces. And so this was looking at in the B2, my initial thoughts were really looking at, we could still lease things for yearly leases, or maybe even look at it for maybe 3-year leases or something like that, for employers and employees and to lease properties, okay, and not necessarily, and not use them for residential properties which require that parking to meet the development regs. And that's basically what it is. But I don't want to take it, you know, the other things we talked about were, you know, some of the businesses have apartments on town, have 1 or 2 apartments up top and all, and I think that's okay to maybe we put a limit on this. I mean, I'm just bringing this all for discussion. You know, maybe they can do leases, but again, those could be yearly leases, since there's something like that, since they're individual properties, and you're making a lease with an individual renter, as opposed to making a lease with the apartment management or whoever, you know, or the apartment owner. So I don't want to discourage that. I don't want to discourage, you know, using the parking in town being used for businesses and customers and employees. So we came up with I don't know, you're just seeing this probably tonight, right? Did we get it out from email? We didn't get it out email, right, Kevin?
I had sent it to you,
Sent it to me, right.
thinking it might get distributed.
And we get it out. But it's just to start a discussion on this and all. Kevin had put in here that, if you see what's in red, that's pretty much for B2, unchanged, but it says a renewable lease agreement is subject to review by the Board of Town Commissioners as set forth in this section. And I think you kind of have a similar wording for B2A and B3A. Is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
And then that any lease agreement for code, for B2, 2A, and 3A that exceeds a year must be approved by the Board of Commissioners at a public hearing.
And
The question,
to avoid any kind of, shall we say, allegation of secular thinking, we removed any reference to non-residential. So you will have to approve all of it.
so we'll have to,
Yeah. So if a business comes in and says, I want a 15-year lease for parking permits, and I'll pay you for them, you have to approve it. Because it does not look appropriate if you're saying, well, residents can't use it, but businesses can. Does that
And
make
I think
sense?
that's a
Right.
better way to go
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes.
because
For-
my issue with it is the long-term commitment of
And-
something
Correct. And
when
this
you
is
don't know
moving
what'll happen
forward.
in 15 or 30 years.
Right.
And this is moving forward.
and this, yes,
It's not retroactive.
yes. Well, can't make it retroactive. There's
Correct. Yeah, that's
Project in discussion, you know, is already vested, so.
correct. Yeah.
That's not, so we don't have to have a cutout for that because it's already a non-issue.
No, but yeah, we did keep the factors pretty much the same, with the impracticality. We kind of talked about that. With, you know, it's impractical. They can't make their parking not on their own property, and we still have the 500 feet locality. Obviously, this is just, like Steve said, to kind of start the discussion. We're certainly, you know, just to kind of get it going without
Yeah.
completely gutting it.
There's really 2 sets of criteria. There's one for the planning commission that looks at design, whereas the town board looks at viability and use of resources. Let's say you have problems with the maintenance of a garage and you don't want to add any more to that, or you have issues with the enforcement. Those kind of things are your decisions rather than the planning commission's decisions.
And they would have to be based on facts, not politics. The public's opinion is not a deciding factor. It would be a deciding factor to have evidence to show that the parking garage, I know Lisa's going to laugh at me, but is viable on its own without any additional financial resources. So it would have, you are now changing hands, you are taking off your hat as legislators, and you are putting on your administrative board, which means you're subject to an entirely different criteria.
Well, or conversely, you know, we could deny something because we say we're not sure that it's a good idea to get in bed with dedicating spots in a garage that we're not sure is solvent.
That is
Ye-
my other
Cool.
concern about the 30-year or 15 plus 15-year lease.
You have to make it based on the facts. What is the facts of that particular case, of that particular, at that time, of that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So you can't say, it's because I don't like the architecture. I don't like the color of the building. I don't like the fact that I think you can reduce the size of the building to a third and therefore utilize it from that parking. That's a design issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at based on only your criteria. Now you can, right here, right now, say, now I think a little more factors here and there, but you are changing course. You are not acting in a legislative capacity. So that means if someone files an application and say, I want to use the parking, the planning commission has given their design approval, and they're going to come in here and they're going to have a public hearing in front of you, and they're going to have to present a case. And then the town will also have the opportunity, probably Kevin, probably Lisa, to provide backup data for the
So
town's perspective.
So the solvency that you're referring to, we're trying to hit that in that second sentence of Part C.
Correct.
Yeah, I
So
picked up on
If there's
that.
something there that you want to adjust and modify, that sounds, that's certainly fine. But we're trying to hit that
Right.
because that's more under your purview rather than
Correct.
planning commission.
But it still factors from a data standpoint.
How many long-term lease agreements do we have?
2,
And what's the other one?
it's 100 Cortland. It's a group home that has a requirement of, I think, we talked about this.
4.
I never looked it up. 4
4.
spaces that are in the Hickory parking lot, not in the garage, but
Right.
the Hickory parking lot. Those are
Mhm.
the only 2.
So this doesn't come up often at all.
No.
I think the last time, I want to say Rope Walk. Or maybe they paid fee in lieu for theirs rather than, I'm trying to think of somebody else. One of the things that happened, And
I'm sorry,
somebody-
I just, to put a cap on that thought, and please, after I finish, Director Small, continue. I'm just going to throw out there that I'm not in favor of committing public resources to private projects, period, regardless of whether we, approve it or not. So I'm just going to throw that out there, but please continue with that.
well, one of the things is that typically the town is not requiring more parking than the code isn't usually the motivation for somebody to come in and put parking spaces in the garage. It's practicality. It is when, about the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, when everybody was making lots of money and there was a big demand on parking in the garage because every business was packing, it was hiring more employees and they needed places to park. In fact, we had problems with people who were parking out in the neighborhoods, that their business was not giving them spaces to park. So it's more of on a practical sense rather than on a development-related code requirement sense.
Yeah, what do you say? My office doesn't have a parking requirement, right?
Right.
Because of the zoning. That doesn't mean I don't need parking. I still have 15 employees that come every day and they need to park somewhere, and we pay for the permits. So if we can't have our employees park there in town lots, we can't operate. It's just, that's the reality. We only have 6 spots and I'm the blessed one that has one of them. So, behind the building, and we have to have them in order to operate.
And I don't think there's any desire from the board to like terminate, our lots
No.
and the things with businesses. It's the concern that it's a difference between, I don't know if yours is annual or monthly or whatever, but the
Annual.
shorter term ones as opposed to the 15 plus 15-year lease, which is just a very long time. And the parking garage has already got some financial issues that go along with it. It's that kind of a concern.
I was explaining this to Kevin. I said, we have been in town, our business has been there in the same building since 1987. We've had the same problem for years. So if the town said, you know what, we want to, you know, sort of plan financially for the future, and my firm wants to plan for the future, and the town said, we would offer you a 10-year lease for all your employees, this is what it was. I couldn't tell my partners not to consider it. It's an administrative hassle for us to make sure that it's done every single year, that our employees get the permits, and every time someone gets a parking ticket, and I have to go pay your parking ticket.
Because they didn't put the
Because they
hashtag.
didn't swap out the
Yeah,
parking
one of
permit.
the things that, that when planning ran the parking program is that we would send out notices to everybody who had parking permits for the previous year. And those notices would go out 2 weeks prior to opening it up to everybody. Because what was happening is that we weren't giving those people a chance to renew. And so that's the advantage that you have if you already had a parking pass, is that you have the ability to get in there and get it back. And so that way there is not that need for an agreement, unless what sometimes also happens is the letter we send gets lost on somebody's desk, and then they come back. And we never really had a big problem with that, because we always accommodate for those folks.
I think all of that makes perfect sense, and when individuals require parking as a matter of course and as a matter of practicality, certainly, you know, that's a separate circumstance from the town authorizing public resources to make up for a shortfall in the code requirements for a proposed project, whether it be commercial or residential. So that's my chief concern.
All right, so anything else on this particular topic? We'll be reading it and,
Yeah, read
Revisiting
it
it?
over and give us your comments, and
okay.
we'll see, and we'll bring it up in another.
Sounds like at least
Work
3 of us
session
are
and-
interested in moving in this
and-
direction.
One last thing, I'm sorry to interrupt, but think about not closing the door for things like this. By putting the power of, by making the town board the final say,
Arbitrary, right?
you have that ability to approve a project that does have code-required parking, but it may be a project that the town wants. So it becomes, then you're going to the Board of Appeals and asking for a variance, and that's and when you get the variance, you're not solving the parking issue.
Yeah.
So it is something where there are some potential pitfalls if you just
Right.
take this option off the table.
That is always an option under the code. You can't restrict someone's ability to say, due to practical difficulties in the property, it's state law that they have the ability to go in and get a variance for, you know, a hardship and an impractical situation on their property. You know, I mean, we talked about this before, Steve, with Hickory Flats, you know, and the uniqueness of that property. That's why they got the variance that they got at the board. But they always have that option, because then what they're just going to do is they're just going to circumvent you, and they'll just go get a variance. So, and then the flip side, what Kevin said is,
But as you know, it's not as simple as going and getting a variance. I mean, you've got to prove a case there.
correct.
Yeah,
You have to
prove a
you
case.
have to prove a case. That's correct. I mean, you know, there is a criteria, and you do have to. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard people out here. You know, there's nothing unique about that property. There's nothing unique. Somebody came up here and argued there's nothing unique, and I'm looking at the shape of the project, and I'm going, okay, that is very unique. I've got a stream going through the back. It's unique. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to make it unique. Does that make sense? The legal standard. You know, if it's a square, standard on bond was not unique. It's a square. It's just the same as the next one. But that is sort of something that could circumvent it. But then the flip side of what Kevin said, if it's a project that the town wants, you are still stuck to those factors. So they have to make it, or they don't. And if it's something that you want and they don't meet the factors, just like the Board of Appeals, goodbye. Sorry, no. So.
Right, and so ultimately, you know, I'm not trying to circumvent state law. State law is state law, and we can't touch that. All we can touch is what we do,
Correct.
And so, you know, I'm not trying to fashion policy to either encourage projects that we want or discourage projects that we don't want. I'm just trying to say I think it's a bad bet for the town to commit these spaces long-term to make up for shortfalls for projects that don't meet the circumstances. And that's where I am with it. I mean, I'll read it more and I'll do some more research, but that's my
Right,
initial
yeah.
reaction.
And that's kind of my initial thought, and then we were talking about various things, and we're going through some of these scenarios that Liz was talking about. And the other aspect of it is when you look at this is what about mixed-use projects? So, you know, how do you handle those? It's not just commercial, it's not just residential, then you have the mixed-use aspect of it. So it's, you know, if you say no matter what the project is, that's one thing. But, you know, my intention was not really to try to hinder commercial development, retail development, things like that in town. I didn't want to have an impact on that. That was one of my goals in trying to propose this legislation or talk about
Parking
it.
is.
But it does seem as though there isn't
calculated
exactly,
separately.
sorry, it doesn't seem like there's a record of commercial projects relying on this because we only have 2 long-term leases.
You had
Right.
mixed use was originally proposed to be off-site in a town lot for standard on bond. That was a
But is
proposal.
not now.
It's not, no, because he scaled back on the
Right.
project due to public. But that's an example, you know, and try to figure out hypotheticals. What I always do, just as a, you know, to help you, is to think of all the projects that you know that have come through, whether they changed, whether they came in, how they come in, why they changed, what were they asking for, and then think of, okay, well, if they really needed that, you know, how would that have played into it, you know, as a hypothetical situation. So,
Yeah, and mixed-use projects, the parking's calculated separately. Now, there is that ability to share parking, though. So they'll come in and ask the planning commission, okay, I want to share, and that's what Standard on Bond is doing, they're sharing parking. So,
And if the argument being made is that some of our parking requirements are too high, or that, you know, it's unrealistic, well, then we should revisit the parking requirements. I don't think we should be looking at ways to help circumvent the parking requirement. You know, if the idea is that, you know, this particular development doesn't need this many spaces because we want people to park in the parking garage anyway, well, let's bring the requirement down and encourage people to park in the parking garage. To me, that's a separate conversation from this, which is specifically about committing town resources to a very specific end.
and if you're curious, we do have that parking study that compares us to about 10 other municipalities.
it's actually really interesting to see how it works, because they use the timing, like the parking garage is underutilized, you know, for way underutilized in the evenings, you know, when during the weekdays, like now, everybody's gone home, courthouse has gone home, everybody's closed, goodbye, you know, there's nobody in there, so.
And that's the whole parking thing about the revenues and how much spaces we have. We have that on the agenda as that's a much bigger discussion.
Bigger discussion.
But, yeah.
Well, let us know if you have any questions or changes.
All right, so we have our homework assignment from Steve. Next, we have the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy, Police Accountability and Community Transparent Grant Award to purchase extra body cameras. Chief?
Yes, ma'am. Stephanie kind of stole my thunder a little bit. She does a lot. She does a lot of work on this thing, and she deserves all the credit. But we just staff thought it would be good to just bring it to your awareness that we were just awarded a grant through the going a little deeper in some of those grants she spoke about in the police department, the Police Accountability Community Transparency Act grant, in other words, the PACT grant. So diving a little deeper in that, we apply for it every year since it's been available since 2021. Usually we get something. We've used it in past awards to purchase new tasers. We purchased gym equipment, body camera program, other body camera program enhancements, translators. We now have translators on our body cameras thanks to this grant. We've done some useful things with this grant, but we thought it would be good to bring it to your awareness for the and for transparency and let the community know. And I also have to mention when I talk about these grants, the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy, which is the ones that provides the funding. So we were just notified in July, the end of July, that we received $38,888 to purchase extra body cameras for all of our patrol officers. So if you weren't familiar, they all have one now, one body camera, and after their tour of duty, they do what's called docking in a docking station, these body cameras, and it has to download sometimes. Depending on the amount of data that's in the camera, it could be quite a while, so frequently they have to leave the cameras overnight. So this presents a weakness when they're leaving their tour of duty, when they're going home and coming back from their tour, that if they run across something, they don't have a body camera on. And we have found in a couple instances when other officers have two body cameras and have those on when they're going back and forth to work. In one such example, we had the Hughes homicide, the tragic homicide where the lady killed her infant child. We were very fortunate that a deputy had his extra body camera on and was able to capture that footage. So that was kind of the catalyst to say, hey, I think Mr. Hopkins spoke about it too. It was something that we wanted to do in the future. So when the NOFA came out, we applied for it, and thankfully we received the funding. Last year from the PACT, I think we received about 30-some thousand, and this year, and times are tight, and it's kind of surprising, but we got all the money that we asked for the body cameras. In addition, we got another 16,000 to help continue to fund the part-time position that we have auditing the body camera footage. So we just wanted to bring it to your awareness and let the people know that we're being fiscally responsible and going out there and trying to save the town money through the grant process when we can. So, any questions on that? Did you have anything else to add, Lisa or Angela?
Just one quick
Yeah.
thing, if I may. So with this grant, it will pay for the cameras themselves and the first year of licenses. So starting in FY '27, the license cost of about $14,000 will be an ongoing operating expense, similar to the first set of cameras that we have. We have an ongoing license that we have to pay. It renews every 5 years. So the proposal that we signed with the vendor is 3 years to try to term it with the original. So basically, after the end of that 3, we'll get a new license agreement with them. So it is grant dollars. We typically don't like to use grant money for something that's going to give us a reoccurring operating expense. But we felt that this was a very important project to use grant dollars for, to have that second set, as the chief mentioned. But we wanted you all to be aware that there is a reoccurring operating license that goes with that every year.
And that is certainly something to plan for, and I'm sure that you and the chief have planned for it in the budget. But I agree, those body-worn cameras are just almost a miracle for the officers. It's no longer he said, she said, or
Yeah.
what really happened. You've got the video, and it has been a huge, huge improvement in how
Yeah,
we're
it's,
doing law enforcement.
It's something I really wasn't a huge supporter of at the beginning, but I'm kind of seeing a lot of benefits from it. And the officers have adjusted, and they adapt very well. They're almost like actors out there, and when they're making these interactions with citizens, especially for criminal cases and such, and for training, they're building their case on this footage, and it's working out very well. And I think it's done a lot to prevent complaints coming in, because everybody's on their best behavior because they know they're being recorded. Everybody is on their best behavior. So.
Well, and I'll say this, I think that whereas many corners of this conversation wanted these body cameras because they felt as though there were bad actors on the force, what has actually in more instances occurred is it has become clear the nonsense that our police officers deal with day in and day out, and we wonder how they stay on such good behavior dealing with the folks that they deal with. And so I'm glad that we have evidence of, exactly when a crime is committed or when there is public disorder, and our officers handle themselves with the utmost professionalism. No longer is there any ability to cast an aspersion on the fact that that officer did exactly what they need to do, because we've got the evidence. And so I'm thankful that we have that line of defense for those who are our line of defense.
Well said, Commissioner Taylor. Well said. Thank you. Any other questions? No? No. Thanks a lot.
All right, moving on, we have staff comments.
Madam Chair, I do have just one thing. You should have received an email from me last Thursday about an opportunity in Havre de Grace on Thursday. Commissioner Rutledge, thank you for your reply to that. And I'm just wondering at this time if there's anyone else who knows their availability for Thursday so that I can report back to the county.
Is that this week?
It is September 11th at 11:30, I
I
believe.
am definitely not available.
Nope, okay, thank you.
I will also unfortunately not be available.
Okay. I'm doing a little roll call here.
Yeah. Nor am I
Okay,
available. Sorry
That's
about
fine.
that.
Both Kat and I will be there from the staff to represent the town for this opportunity, so we're all good. I just wanted to make sure that you remembered the email and didn't miss it if you wanted to be there or were available to be there. I know you all want to be there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just availability issues.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I had one quick comment, if it's okay. I know
Sure.
I'm not staff, but I wanted to call out Steve Klein today, who appeared before the Circuit Court for Harford County in a case, star witness.
Oh,
He
see, I
was-
thought she was going to say they found you guilty.
That's why you're wearing a tie.
He looked great.
All
He did
day.
a great job. He was prepared. He knew exactly what I was going to ask him before I even asked him. We were in and out of there in a half an hour, and we were
That
successful.
is great.
So again, Steve, thank you.
Shed should be going on Stoneleigh soon.
Yes.
That's what the court case was.
I'm sorry.
The shed.
The shed on Stoneleigh.
Shed on Stoneleigh Road. So, we'll work to get that removed.
And the town was granted all costs, including attorney's fees, court costs, and costs of abatement. So,
That's great to hear.
Yes.
I know it's been a long-running issue, but I'm glad to see it's finally
Is this
coming to a
The
close.
house with the cars also?
Kevin's scared. He
What's
got
that?
the cars gone.
Yeah.
Kevin
Earlier.
did. Yeah.
Same house, okay.
Yeah. So again, Steve, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Right. There's always another one in the works. All right. Anybody
There's always
else?
plenty more.
All right. In that case, commissioners' comments. Well, I'll start while you gather your thoughts because I wrote down my notes. Angela, thank you for the business updates that we're getting weekly. I really enjoy seeing what's coming, what's going on. It's great. Festival for the Arts, just reminding everybody here and that might be watching, the Festival for the Arts is this weekend. It's usually next weekend, but because it conflicted with St. Margaret's, it's been moved to this weekend. So you can go to the Festival for the Arts this weekend and St. Margaret's Fair next weekend, and Christmas is coming, so it's a great time to shop. Get it done early. Community collection event is on the 20th, which is another great thing because Christmas is coming, so get rid of all your old bicycles, books, paper, whatever you've got in your house. Chief, kudos to you. I know your guys had a really busy weekend this weekend, but they're doing some great work out there. I know those kids on the bikes are, a menace to the pedestrians and, just kind of giving people a headache. And we want them to be safe and we want them to behave themselves. And you guys are doing, a really great job. And last but not least, certainly, Mary, happy birthday, one day late, and congratulations on your retirement from Jones. You've had so many
Thank you very much.
careers
Yeah,
in your
it's-
life.
It's been a great ride. It has. I've been very blessed and fortunate and love this community and have been able to serve in a lot of ways. And the Jones piece was also, helps me stay connected with the nonprofit world and the grants that came in. So I'm very blessed. And, but now that I'm 78, it's time. So I'm just going to try and enjoy this time with my granddaughters and and then figure out where else I'd like to spend my time and still be of service. So there
You
you are.
spent decades giving back to the community, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you will find a way to continue to do good works and help the nonprofits in here.
I have to, I think that's important, so
It
I'll be
is.
doing that.
It
Thank
is.
you.
I have one comment that I actually meant to make. It's a clerical comment that I meant to make during our discussion on parking. This ordinance number, this should be 847, right? That we received.
I'll defer to Mike.
Right. Just Jim already has 846.
Right.
So just something to,
Maybe
before we
an-
introduce this, just make a note of it, 847. That's all I got.
So we should also say, Mike, we missed you.
Yes,
We have
in many ways.
ordinances that need numbers correction. We had to find our own agendas for this evening, so I hope you're enjoying yourself, but we do miss you, and we look forward to having you back with us.
Madam Chair, I have one more event, if I may add
Absolutely.
to your calendar. This weekend is also in conjunction with Bel Air Festival for the Arts. It's also the Maryland Center for the Arts Plein Air Festival. So we have the opening reception at the Armory on Friday evening, the Plein Air Quick Draw event, which the Cultural Arts Commission sponsors the first prize for on Saturday from 10 to 12. So if you see artists painting across downtown, that's what those are for. Awards for that will be given at the Armory, I believe, around noon. And then the exhibit for the plein air is open at the Armory on Saturday and Sunday as well. So I hope people will come out and take a look at those things. The hours for those exhibits are listed on the Bel Air Arts and Entertainment website calendar.
So as usual, there's much to do this
So much
weekend
to
in Bel
do.
Air.
So much to do.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
for
sir.
me, I have a family emergency, I need to leave.
Absolutely. All right. Any other commissioners' comments? In that case, may I have a motion for the closed session?
Yeah, I got this time. Okay, yes, Madam Chair, I move that we go into closed session. This portion of the meeting will be closed under the provisions of the Maryland Open Meetings Act, general provisions, Articles 3-305B1, 7, and 8. Topics of discussion are 1, to discuss the appointment of officials to the town boards, commissions, and committees, and 2, obtain legal advice regarding the proposed opioid lawsuit settlement with 7 opioid manufacturers. Oh, here's my pronunciation. Alvogen, Amneal, Apotek, Hikma, Sun, was it Viatris, and Zydus. The reasons for closed session discussion of the above topics. 1, because public discussion of candidates' names, qualifications, experiences, and backgrounds could discourage people from volunteering for public service or compromise their privacy rights. And 2, because the public discussion of confidential information and legal strategies can compromise the attorney-client privilege and inhibit the ability of the public body to receive candid and uninhibited legal guidance.
Thank you, Commissioner Chismar. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion of the motion? All right. In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are in closed session as of 7:36. It was a unanimous vote to go into closed session, and for the members of the public that are watching, we will not be conducting any further public business. We will be adjourning after our closed session. So now we just have to wait and make sure we are